Hello and welcome to my yard sale. No, but seriously, so today what I want to do is I want to go over some of the gear that you're going to actually need when you're starting out, and not even necessarily just when you're starting out, but those are kind of some of the questions that I've gotten more recently. This is even good for you even if you're just like kind of looking to expand on what you currently have, or you're looking to take a new step into a new direction with the type of gear that you have. I have 5 things and then I have a couple bonus ones as well. So let's just start here at the very beginning, because if you're going to do any sort of photo or video, it is very important to have some sort of camera, obviously. But what I want to specifically say about the cameras is that, especially if you're just beginning, but even if you're kind of intermediate or you're like doing this as a hobby but you're taking it seriously, you don't necessarily need like the biggest and best camera out on the market. You kind of just need what's going to suit you. So I would say these are 2 of the more entry-level cameras that I have at the moment. I have the Fuji X-t30 and then I have the Lumix S9. Both would be fantastic options if you're beginning or you're a serious hobbyist. These are just the ones that I've used personally. I've also used cameras like the Canon C50 and the Canon T7i, and those more budget entry-level cameras are fantastic at going. All of these new modern cameras are going to take a great image. When you look at megapixels, you don't need anything past 24, especially starting out in my opinion. And unless you're doing really big prints or you're doing wildlife or doing it professionally where you need to punch into those pixels, 24 is probably good enough. And importantly, one thing that I would look for is if it has the capability of 4K video. It's getting fewer and fewer the amount of cameras on the market nowadays that don't have 4K video. That's something I would definitely look for, because then you're going to kind of future-proof yourself. If right now, say you're just doing photography, or you're doing photography and video but doing it kind of as a hobby, as long as you have the ability to record 4K video, that's going to set you up for the future. And like, I even starting out had a like $400 Nikon DSLR that I bought at Best Buy, and you know, I wasn't great at photography at the time, but I used it to learn, and I think I got some pretty dang good shots out of it, even though it was a super inexpensive camera, one that didn't even have 4K video either. It was just a 1080 camera, but I think it was a 20 something megapixel camera, so it gave me good results, and most importantly, it got me out and got me practicing my photography. So that is the most important, and it even came with a little kit lens, and so that's what I want to talk about next is lenses. So everyone knows a version of this saying, which is you're gonna date your camera and marry your lens, something along those lines. To get to the point, essentially what that means is your lens is going to be much more important than your camera body, because the camera bodies are going to recycle every couple of years, and they're going to come out with new features and this and that, and you're probably going to want to upgrade, and eventually the technology in the cameras kind of supersede the previous versions, and then you'll just have to upgrade at some point. Whereas lenses, I mean, people are getting fantastic images out of 40, 50, 60-year-old lenses that you can pair with new modern cameras, and that's why you want to marry the lens, because the lens will last far longer than the camera will. And if you're careful about it, or you're putting a lot of thought into it, you can get a lens that could last you your entire career. So what I'll say about lenses is it's okay to get these little primes and stuff like that when you're just starting out. Something like this is a 40mm f2.0 TTartisans lens, $150 or something like that, that goes with the Lumix S9. And then with my Fuji, I have this one is the 25mm equivalent of about 40mm f1.7 from Viltrox. Both very inexpensive lenses, and both work great. And especially if you're starting out, the advice that I give to somebody when you're picking out your first lenses, a zoom is definitely helpful to get you to learn the different focal ranges and get used to what each focal range looks like, so that way you can just know with your mind's eye when you look at something you want to take a picture of, ooh, that's a 40 millimeter range, or I need to get to 75 to get a good image on that. So having a lens that is a zoom lens, like this one is the 28 to 70 from Sigma, Very good lens, fairly inexpensive too, less than $1,000. Getting something like this is definitely a huge bonus and will get you to go out and learn a lot. But it's not necessary. And it's not even necessarily about the money, it's about the quality of the lens. So just make sure you're getting a good quality lens, one that's gonna last you a long time. And like I said, this 28 to 70 range, there's 24 to 60, 24 to 70. There's different variations of this, but that is kind of the tried and true, like you can kind of keep this on your camera and leave it on there forever, and that's what most people kind of tend to do. If you can, try to get a fast lens, so like under f2.8 or below. That way it will be just more versatile for you. Better for bokeh, better in low light, and a lot of the times it's just going to give you the more of the images that you're looking for, more of the images that you probably see on social media or you think about that you want to try to take. Having a fast aperture will just help you achieve those things more often. So, oh, and one thing that I forgot to mention about cameras, batteries. Get extra batteries. You're gonna need them. You're gonna need them. So I know there's a lot of these types of videos out there, and one thing that I see missed in a lot of these videos is filters, and specifically ND filters. So this one here is a 82mm ND from K&F Concept. K&F Concept is just a brand that I really like. It's one that I've used throughout my entire career. These filters, specifically ND filters that is, are really, really important because what you want is to be able to, I have an ND filter on the camera right now. So you're getting that effect to some degree already, but as it limits the amount of light coming in to your image. And why that's important is because when you're dealing with things like the exposure triangle, right? So exposure triangle, you have your ISO, you have your aperture, and you have your shutter speed. All of those control the amount of light that comes into your camera. But when you're just using the exposure triangle to limit the amount of light and not using them as settings to dial in your camera to take a specific shot, when you're using them to limit the amount of light, you're always going to have a compromise and a trade-off somewhere. So like with your ISO, the more ISO you introduce, the more noise you're going to introduce into your image. With aperture, the more that you close down your aperture, you're going to get less background blur, less bokeh. You can get a little bit blurry the more that you stop down your aperture. There's a sweet spot between, kind of like f7 and f16 where you actually get really sharp images, but you go past that and things can get a little bit blurry. And then obviously with your shutter speed, the higher your shutter speed is, the more it's going to freeze action. So if you're trying to do specific things, like say you're trying to shoot in low light and you're trying to get like the motion blur type effect for images, say you want to do light painting, anything like that, you want to do those cool shots where you have a subject in the middle of the frame not moving and everything moving around him, those would be impossible to do with a high shutter speed. That's where ND filters come in, because the ND filter will help you manage that amount of light coming into the camera. And so in turn, what that lets you do is be able to choose the exact settings that you want to capture the exact image you want. It just gives you way more flexibility. And another thing with filters is you can get some cool like stylized ones, like something I use on pretty much every one of my videos, no matter if it's inside, outside, no matter what type of video it is. I usually use some sort of mist filter to just kind of soften the image a little bit and add some cool like bloom to the to light sources in the background and whatnot. And I think it's often overlooked. And specifically, get yourself a good ND filter. And I know a lot of people recommend to get like an 82mm or as big as you can get and just use like step up rings. I don't love that idea, but that's kind of up to you, whatever you want to do. It does save money, but I like to have a filter that fits the lens. So maybe just pick out the lens that you know you're going to get, and then you'll be able to get the filter to match. Okay, fourth on the list, we have tripods. Now, obviously, I can't show you guys the tripod that I'm currently using because I'm currently using it to hold up the Lumix S5 2X, which I'm recording on right now. But what I'll say about tripods is you do want to try to pick out a tripod that is of a decent budget. You don't need to spend too much on a tripod, but you also don't want to show up to a job or to a location and have a tripod that's not going to give you the confidence that it's going to hold up your expensive camera and your lens and all of your gear that you have, that you're so happy you just purchased and you're excited to go take photos or videos, and you get a bad tripod and you accidentally knock it over and everything breaks. Yeah, maybe something that I've experienced in my life. But what I will say is, in my experience, a tripod is something that you will outgrow at some point. And you'll kind of just fall into some sort of a niche one way or the other. And each niche of photography or video kind of has a specific tripod that works best for it. If you do a lot more on-set filming, you want kind of a sturdier tripod to hold usually a bigger camera rig. If you're doing something that's travel, like specific, you're going to want a lighter, more compact tripod. So just get something that's going to do the job for you and is relatively inexpensive. You can usually get a good tripod nowadays somewhere between $100 and $200 with all the bells and whistles that you'll need, and you don't really need to go overboard with any of the additional features. So all in all, with tripods, just get something that's going to do the job for you, you feel comfortable about putting your camera and lens on top of, and worry about getting the fancy tripod later in the future. Okay, last but not least, we have media. Media, of course, if you can see that, comes in all different shapes and sizes. This is an SD card. Depending on the camera you get, you'll have the possibility of maybe needing a CF Express type card, a micro SD card, maybe even you can use an SSD on some types of cameras, probably not more of the entry level cameras, but then you also have these little media sleeves that you can carry your media in. This one is by PGY Tech. I love it. It's also a card reader, but media, very important. Why is media important? Because media is what you capture all your images on. You need to make sure that you're buying the right type of media to do the job. So a couple things to look out for that. It doesn't necessarily matter which brand you get, as long as it's one of the top 7 or 8 brands. They're all more or less the same as far as quality goes in my experience. But you do want to try to check your specific camera as to which one is compatible. Usually cameras will come out with a compatibility list of ones that they've tested personally, and they can guarantee that these types of SD cards will work with that specific camera. So it's always good to try to follow that if you can. And the other thing I would say is, no matter if it's a SanDisk, the one I have right here is a Sony, you got ProGrade, Lexar, all those different brands. All of them are solid, but you want to make sure that you get the right read and write speed. So look up that. There's going to be different options from a V30, V60, V90. Most cards are going to be UHS 2 these days for the cameras, I should say. Most cameras are going to want to take a UHS 2 card. So just make sure you look at those specific specs. And as far as size goes, I would always recommend getting 2 or 3. Definitely get multiple cards instead of storing everything on one card. Because what's going to happen is, I sure hope it doesn't happen to you, but it probably is going to happen where you're going to have a card corrupt, and you don't want to have everything you just shot on that card, and you go to edit on your computer or you pull it out of the card when you get home or whatever, and it's corrupted and you lose everything. It's the worst feeling in the world. I don't want that to happen to you. So get multiple cards. And the other thing I would say with that, I've definitely known a lot of people who will store everything on their cards. They will transfer to the computer into a random folder and edit the project from there, and then they'll just literally keep their entire history of photos and videos on one card. Don't do that either. Get whether it's just the hard drive on your computer or you get a separate external hard drive, get something to back up all your photos and videos on. Again, I'm trying to save you heartache and pain in the future, because there's nothing worse than getting home after a cool photo trip or video, or whatever you're doing, and you realize you don't have anything to show for it. Now, the only thing that could maybe compare to that is when you get to a job or a cool location you want to shoot, and you realize you left your card at home. You didn't bring it. There's nothing in it. It's crazy that these $2,000, $3,000, however many thousands of dollars cameras can't take internal photos and videos. It's something that needs to happen in the future, but for now, we're stuck having to use SD cards. So get a couple of them that are going to be of an appropriate size. I would recommend at least 120 gigs and leave one of them in the camera. When you're going home, when you're swapping, or when you're dumping all your footage, swap them out, put one back in the camera. Just make that a habit. It's going to save you a lot of pain in the future. Those are the 5, but I told you I have bonus ones. One of them is a blower. You can get multiple different types of blowers. You can get electronic ones that do a really good job. What this is used for, this is just an old-fashioned hand pumped one. For cleaning out your sensor, I would recommend trying to clean out your sensor as much as possible. Clean it out every time you use it, just by using the blower. They're very sensitive. I don't know enough about it to give you like a full guide on that. This isn't the type of video anyways, but I would say use this, blow out the dust on your lenses, your camera sensor, everything, anything that's going to affect the image, use that bad boy. Also, another bonus one. This is definitely more of a video one because obviously photos don't use audio, but have a good audio system. So this right here is just the Hollyland Lark M2. That's what I have on right here, recording my audio at the moment. It's a super cheap audio solution. It's like 75 bucks. You can go directly into your phone. I have it running in here into my iPhone at the moment, recording my voice. And yeah, just invest in a good wireless audio system to get you going, because if you know anything about video, you've probably heard somebody tell you that audio is more important than the video, because you can bear through a video with grainy footage but great audio. But when you can see a 4K National Geographic documentary, but if it has terrible trash can audio, you're not going to want to watch it. So make sure you're investing in something that will record quality audio. And then also, if you want to kind of look into mixing and EQing your audio so it sounds that little bit better as well, that's how you can get something that sounds, or that's only 75 bucks to sound like it's much more expensive. Last but not least, lighting. Again, a very video specific thing, but it also does apply to photo, especially if you're doing photo shoots like indoors in studios and stuff like that. Even when you're going outdoors, I've done shoots outdoors for headshots and stuff like that, where I'll have some sort of lighting source, even if it's a reflector. Bringing proper lighting to your subject and to your environment is going to make your image so much better. So that's probably something for another video. So if you guys want a specific video on just video type features that you would need, like the top 5 things you need to get going with videos, I could definitely make that. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in something like that. But lighting is a very big piece of the pie when it comes to how your image quality is going to look. Those are the top 5. I have, camera, lenses, media, ND filters, tripod. Those are all kind of the basic things that you would need to get going. And anything else, like you might be asking, oh, Dalton, what about a bag? What about a camera bag? In my experience, camera bags are not always worth the money. And, most people have a backpack or some kind of bag that they can add a little extra padding into and kind of get the job done. These are kind of the necessities to get you going and getting absolutely fantastic images and going out there and just practicing your craft. That's most important. Go out there, practice your craft, develop that love and foster and feed into that love of creation. And that's what we want to see. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. That's all I have for today. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you want me to make future videos like this, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.